Oh, here's a good one. Darren Staley, he's also a member at One True Sport. Does RVD have any good Stan Hansen stories? And why does he think Stan was so over in Japan?
Well, from my experience, Japan is a representative of the Eastern philosophy. It's literally where it originates is in the East, and people are different. And the older you get there, it seems like people respect the older, wiser, more experienced people there. It seems like it, and that definitely seemed to be true with the wrestling stars. And I remember I'd been going over there for a few years. I was getting the chants RVD. I was, well, I mean, Lobu, Bandamo. It's a little bit different there. But I was doing the split leg moonsault, cross bodies, being me, and feeling like I was making a name for myself. And I remember pulling over at this truck stop on a long, boring bus ride. And man, when we got off the bus, the people came running to Dory Funk Jr. They came running to Abdullah the Butcher. And they came running to Stan Hansen. And I was thinking, like, wow, man, what's a guy got to do around here to get some respect? And the answer is get a lot more experience. Now I hear all the time from people that grew up watching me. That means I've been a significant part of their life for a long time, and I've been fairly consistent if they know what I'm about, and depending on what they value about me in their life. I don't think I've changed a whole lot. So there's that. They feel a lot more connected. But in Japan, in the East, the same way with martial arts. If you watch the old movies, like, and I'm not saying Hong Kong is in Japan, but in the Far East, the Orient, it's the old bald dudes with the little gray mustache and beard that kicks the shit out of a whole room full of people. The drunken master or whatever, and it's the young people that are always trying to surpass that level of wisdom that comes from experience. So I found that to be a very, very strong factor, and it was really relevant at that moment for me at that truck stop. It really sunk in. And then, just like everything, once you're aware of it and it becomes part of your thought process, then you notice it a lot more. It's been true ever since. Stan is also very consistent with just being a bull. He just runs over everybody, kind of like a juggernaut. Just doesn't care what's in his way, chairs, people, whatever. I remember being hurt the most on one tour being his partner, just because he ran in and pushed my head out of the way so he could come in and bully his way into the match. Came in from behind me and kinked my neck, and then everything hurt the rest of the tour. I was like, oh, cool, thanks, Dan. Hope it was worth it for you, and I'm sure it was. He didn't give a darn about me, my young ass. But he would come out of the dressing room with a bull rope, and sometimes would have a bell tied on the end of it, and he would just start swinging it. And you've seen a couple other wrestlers do this as well. Um, I saw Stan doing it. That was the first time, and that's what it was about to me. Was, oh my God, Stan comes out, and the thing is, just like with the running of the bulls, they all know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
and they know that he's coming out. They know when it's his match, and they know when his music hits. And what do? They all crowd around the dressing room door so that as soon as he kicks it open and screams, ah! Sorry, Levy. Um, Everyone would go running and trample over each other, and a lot of people would get hit with that rope. Kids, I remember it was an issue. Like a couple of us guys were talking about it. Dan Crawford, was like, man, that's wrong. Like he was like a little 14-year-old kid or something with a big welt on his face because he's swinging that wham, wham, and he clears through the crowd like like a weed whacker going through, a field. That's the way to describe Stan going through the crowd to the ring. They loved it. They loved the physicality of it, credibility. Come on, how are you not going to believe that? And he was always in character, always Stan. And there's a lot to respect about him because even when he was considered like an older guy or whatever, he still would go toe to toe with guys like Vader, Kabashi, um, big guys that he would not back down from. Anytime he put the boots on, I feel like he was going to deliver, at everybody's expense. So I think that's why Stan was so popular. And there's some stories for you right there. And I've told this one about when the Black Hearts were over there. They got heat from all the boys because they were really, really annoying to be around. They tried so hard to fit in, always said the wrong things at the wrong time. They got so much heat, and mostly the one guy over the other. It was Tom that was super annoying, and David was his partner, so guilty by association. And they both wore these nylon black masks that covered everything, like they're Robin Banks or whatever. That's what their heads look like, and they had to wrestle Stan like towards the end of a tour one time, and it was after they had a lot of heat, and Stan had decided, I'm going to spank those boys, and he took a chair, whack, hit one of them over the head so hard, it sounded gross. Looked like a can of tomato paste, like was bam bashed on the guy's forehead, and then wham, ditto on the other guy. Both split open, both lots of blood, and to them that was part of paying their dues.
Wow, man, yeah, Stan was wild. It's like I didn't get to see a whole lot of his stuff, obviously, but I remember like hearing being a Bruno fan and hearing the matches that he had with Bruno and breaking Bruno's neck, and then just the ass. I got to meet him in New York, WrestleMania 36 or something, whenever it was in New York and stuff like that. He was just a nice guy.
Yeah. He gave me so much shit the first 2 or 3 years that I was wrestling for All Japan. Mm-hmm. People forget I wrestled for All Japan from like 93 to 99. That was my go-to, my bread and butter, and it gets left out of my bios a lot. But I was wrestling for Giant Baba all that time, and then afterwards wrestled several times for other companies as well, but that's when Giant Baba was alive. And Stan, for the first several years, this is kind of evidence about how OG I was with my style. Mm-hmm. Nobody else was doing that stuff back then, right? Yeah. They're all in the ring. And really, in All Japan, it was a very traditional kind of company, which I loved because we never did interviews. The storylines were usually brought out through the matches, through the fight that you had in the match would sometimes be a story or you were chased for a title. But there was like one guy with a mask, and that was Patriot. Like one guy that painted his face, and that was Kamala. And then the Black Hearts, they weren't normally there. They did one, maybe 2 tours, and that was it. But normally it was just guys in trunks, and it was very basic, and it was about the wrestling, and I really loved that, and I loved the physicalities of it. Still, my style was a little different. I wanted to be doing backflips off the guardrail. You know what I mean? I wanted to be diving out to the crowd and stuff like that. And because of that, Stan used to always make fun of me because like we'd be talking before the match, like if it's a 6-man and the 3 Americans are together talking, just trying to set up, trying to pregame a little bit, like maybe one of them will say, well, I'll just start the match out and, let me do some warm-up stuff with Kabashi, let him tag one of the young boys in like a Sako or something, and, I'll come over and tag Robin. And Robbie, he would call me. I'll tag Robbie. And then, then Stan would be like, yeah, okay, put his glasses up. And then he'd say, well, all right, as soon as possible, tag me back in. I'll try to make it believable again.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he would always insult me like that when I was young, but he liked me, and I knew that, and we had a relationship. I remember asking him advice. God, I was so young, and I was having problems in my mind with the girl that I used to see forever ago, before my evil ex, the one that got engaged, and then my ego wouldn't let her be happy, so I had to get her back,
Yeah.
and then break up again, and man, yeah. Anyway, we split up and got back together a lot and stuff. And I remember being over in Japan, and everyone brought me out, getting drunk, icky. That's what they do, kampai. And, they make you drink when you're younger. It's peer pressure. And anyway, part of the ritual. But I remember them bringing me out to the karaoke bars and me like changing like the words to sing that, my girl's such a whore. Entertaining myself. But I was so young. I would have been 22 and 23 years old, up to 24, even like during those years. But I remember, and this is what I wanted to share because it's so not me now. So one of those times where I see how much growth I had. But I remember asking Stan, like, how do you know, like, this girl, she was older than me and she was more experienced than I was.
Yeah.
I was a baby, and I had a problem with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I remember asking Stan, like, how do you know, like, if the girl's like been with like too many guys, or like what's too many where you shouldn't waste your time with them? Like I remember asking Stan that, like a father figure, I guess, kind of question, having that conversation with him and stuff. And I must have just been so young to think that somebody else would have an answer for that on what would work for me and my situation. And he did, he
Yeah.
did he did have an answer. Yeah, he was like, well, I mean, you don't want a girl that's been with like 100 guys. That's too much. That's the kind of things like people that are like, well, I don't judge. They like to put their stipulations on something and still think of it as being open. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with someone smoking marijuana, and they got to really add. If they want to take a couple of puffs before bed at night, what's the difference between that and a glass of wine? But okay, what about someone who wants to smoke 2 joints while he's doing a podcast? Because you didn't mention that guy. Yeah, that's the way that people are, though. It's a way to express yourself with basic thinking. And anyway, sorry, Stan, if I was calling you a basic thinker. No, but we had that relationship way back then. And then coming full circle after I got good and was wrestling a lot and wrestling in the States, and towards the end of the 90s, this would have been then, because I'm already probably in ECW, getting my confidence, everything. I remember wrestling with Stan, and it was a tag match or something, but I am in the ring with him, and I'm like, all right, motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like I have an agenda here. You know what I mean? Because, and I'm ECW RVD too. Like, hey, you're going to learn to have some respect right here. And that's how I felt. And I remember having him in the corner, and I did the shoulders in him. Bam, 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 down low. And then I did a backflip.
Yeah.
And then I came running at him, and I did a jumping kick and kicked him in the face. Boom. And he's like swinging around or whatever. And after the match, he said, wow, he said, I got to hand it to you. Your stuff's legit. Like I'd never seen it from that angle. I'd never been in there like that. And he said, I like 1 minute you were there, and then boom, you jumped up, you just disappeared. I couldn't find you anymore, because he's got really bad eyesight.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, damn, Stan, you used to act like I didn't belong in the business. And he said, well, you didn't back then. Now you do. So that was like my RVD's rite of passage. My rite of passage via Stan the Man Hansen. There's a story for you.
I love that. That's awesome, man. Great stuff. Awesome question too. Whoever asked that.
These podcasts are fun, even when I'm tired at the beginning. Like, but it always
Yeah, we always
pull out
always
some stuff. Yeah.
always find some stuff.